It is another morning where we get the opportunity to talk a little bit about gardening here live on all the different platforms this morning. Of course, Facebook, we're on LinkedIn today, we're on Twitter as well. And my name is Frank Ferragini, aka Frankie Flowers. I come here each and every Sunday morning, well, most Sunday mornings between 9 and 9:30 to answer your garden questions and also to give you a little bit of insight on what's going on in the world of gardening. I am a four-time best-selling garden author. My family has two garden centers, one in Bradford, one in Barrie. They're called Bradford Greenhouses. They're greenhouse growers, and I come from a family and a lifetime of growing plants and agriculture and farming and being involved in the Canadian greenhouse community and as well in landscape and the Landscape Ontario community as well. Big shout out to Landscape Ontario this morning. Here we go. We are in April. We made it. We've had here in the province of Ontario and Southern Ontario, some little tastes of spring with temperatures topping out in the upper teens. However, we also get back to reality where we go from an up to a down and to some snow that we just saw the other day in terms of flurry activity. But we're slowly progressing. And if I take a look at the long range forecast over the next 2 weeks, each and every morning you can see me live on breakfast television where I'm wild about weather and I'm passionate about plants. I forecast the weather, but if I look at the long range forecast, it looks like we'll be fairly seasonal. So a nice little slow climb up into spring. You probably noticed some damage around your property from some of the high winds that we've had if you had some larger trees. So I really encourage you to go out there and inspect your property, inspect your landscape to make sure that you're really aware of some of the damage of some of the larger branches that may need to come down. Get an arborist in. That's nothing you ever want to play with. Because some of those large branches not only can do property damage, cause power outages, but also they can cause severe injury and sometimes even loss of life. So that's a little shout out. Go out there. Good morning from Pietro. Sonia is saying good morning from Estina and Serena. Morning from Shelburne. I also want to give a big shout out to the little card that I received. This card that I received was from Maston, age 3, and also sent me, look at this, isn't this adorable? Oops, sorry, I'm just gonna spit it. Also sent me a little tulip. Love my tulips, love that. So thank you very much for there. Good morning this morning as well from Linda Brown and Hall Landing. We have a good morning from Aurelia this morning as well. That's from Lacey. We have another good morning out there this morning. I'm moving to New Brunswick in 3 weeks. This is from Denise. Have a house with no gardens or trees, please visit. I would love to visit New Brunswick. I've only been to New Brunswick once. A good morning to Newmarket, this community just not too far from me this morning. That's from Andrea, who I know as well. Good morning shout out as well to Brantford this morning. I also want to take a look at just earlier this week, we posted on the Frankie Flowers Facebook page a question. What are you looking forward to the most this season? So a couple comments just to kind of say, Marina said early and warm morning, watering the garden. There's nothing like a warm morning early when the sun is rising and you're out there watering your garden. There's something about the smell, the feeling, just how everything's like growing and how the plants just want to accept it. I agree with that. Digging in the dirt. Maria also says cleaning up and then watching everything come to life again. Janice says watching and hoping my hostas come back to life after being severely damaged last August after a hailstorm. The hostas will take it. Don't worry. I've seen hostas. I've seen a home burned down, a complete home burned down. And then within just a matter of a few weeks to a few months thereafter, sedum and hostas are just rebounding back in. So those guys there are pretty amazing. Brenda says, learning how to grow some vegetables in raised beds. Take a look at my book, Food to Grow. Follow me on here as well. Linda Thompson, heat and no complaining with humidity, LLO. So I've actually, my grass seed I spread on my banks at the cottage last fall. I could not believe it had already germinated. Hope it continues to spread and widen our driveway, and which then looked blah. Then all my lilies, the grandson Hudson and I planted, and the work well on the banks and so on. That's the thing about spring. Some of the work that you did last season, we're looking forward to seeing if it grew this year. I did a bunch of daffodil bulbs in my backyard. I'm hoping a couple things. I had a friend that came over with their dog that dug up there. I tried to put them all back, so I'm hoping they didn't damage. Squirrels running around should not touch my daffodils, but you never know. So I've been seeing, I have a neighbor that has some oak trees with some acorns. So I've been seeing the squirrels run around, and I've been seeing them plant the acorns as well. So there's lots to look forward to. Okay. General message from Toronto. Tomato seedlings have sprouted. We'll be growing 10 varieties, including Cherokee Purple. That's from Jean Yi. Amazing. Cherokee Purple, as I've been mentioning, that was my favorite tomato for flavor last season. Just an unbelievable plant, a big plant, an heirloom variety. So you do need space. So if you're thinking about growing some of the heirloom tomatoes, the Cherokee Purples, you're thinking about growing tomatoes this year, I want you to look at either the seed package and or the plant that you purchased later on to see whether it's a bush variety, which would be a determinate tomato, or if it's an indeterminate tomato. If it is an indeterminate tomato, which is a vine variety, that's going to grow tall and wide, meaning that you will need some method of supporting that plant, either a tomato cage or a post. You will need that space. But if you're looking for something that's better in a pot and or close to a patio, look to a patio tomato and or a bush tomato, or on the tag it will say determinate, and determinate basically means dwarf. Good morning from Montego Bay, says Maxine. Irie, I hope you're doing Irie. Get some go to Scotchies, it's Scotchies, very good. And then also if you're Montego Bay, try out Juicy Patty. Juicy Patty, one of the best Jamaican beef patties around. Good morning. Any tips on this is right here. Any tips on growing carrots? This is from Monica. So carrots are going to need a well-drained soil. So they don't want to have, if you do have a high water table, your carrots are not going to do that well. They will grow in a sandy loam to a good kind of organic compost. Sunshine is key for them. I would buy the carrots in a seed tape that will actually space them out quite nicely for you. And by putting the seed tape down, it's really an easy process. You don't have to put much soil on top of that seed. It's only a light little amount of soil on top. You can, even if you're thinking is to hill the carrots slightly, by hilling them, that'll actually allow some of the moisture to drain away and allow those carrots to absorb moisture, but then just to sit a little bit drier overall. There are several varieties of carrots that you can get. They're Nantes, which are a little bit shorter, a little sweeter. So, and then the carrot tops themselves can also be used for garnishes and things like that. Even carrot tops can be used instead of parsley sometimes as well. Here we go let's see what this question is here. April replying to Frankie Flowers. Good morning from Morelia. Any tips on how and when is best to plant grass seed? Glad you brought this question up. It's something that I wanted to talk to. So there's no need to put grass seed down until things are actively growing outdoors. So once we see that we're starting to see some leaves on trees and we're starting to see things sprout out of the garden, that means our soil temperatures are warm enough. Soil temperature for grass seed to germinate need to be between 15 to 20 degrees. We can put the grass seed down, and if we were to put it down now, it would just sit dormant there, blow away. There's a possibility of some different birds that could eat it. It'll mix in with weed seeds. What you would maybe consider doing right now, and I will show this, I'm going to share the screen with you guys as well. Let me get back over here. I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to share a Chrome tab. Deny. And then we're going to go here. We're going to share. So what you may consider about putting on now, and you can see this is a Scott's Turf Builder Wheat Prevent Corn Gluten Meal. What this is a product that will prevent the germination. So this contains 100% corn gluten meal. It's a natural pre-emergent weed seed preventer. What that means as a pre-emergent is you're applying it right now when seeds are dormant. That's going to coat any seeds sitting on your lawn currently, most of them. By coating those seeds, it won't allow them to germinate, and it will actually cut down the germination of things like crabgrass and dandelion seeds that are sitting dormant. Will it eradicate them all? No. But will it help? Yes. Will it feed the lawn? Yes. When you're applying for that as well, what I would also recommend for you guys to do as well is to make sure that you apply it and that it rains thereafter, because it is made out of corn gluten. Sometimes you'll see some birds that get out there and that will eat away at it. Another thing is that it'll sit there for a period of time and prevent that germination for 6 weeks. So if we apply it right now, we're not going to apply any grass seed until 6 weeks from now. So we're going to, number one strategy is we're going to put the corn gluten down, which is the weed preventer down, try to reduce the amount of seeds that are germinating. Then what we'll do in about 2 to 3 weeks time is we'll put a Scott's Turf Builder fertilizer down to strengthen the existing lawn. And what that will do is actually take up some more space that's there in terms of bare patches and whatnot. The lawn will start to grow and fill. Then in 6 weeks from today, we then put our grass seed down, or we even do a Scott's 911 lawn response, which actually has grass seed fertilizer and a mulch within. You can just do it in the spreader, and then that'll thicken your lawn up, and that'll put you on a really good path out there. I brought my lawn back to health in the front and backyard in this home. My neighbors like, unbelievable what you did in a season, but there was work. There was the corn gluten I put down. There was some hand removal of existing dandelions. There was a couple different overseedings that I did. There was watering, there was fertilizing, there was a lot of love. So there you go. Here's a good question, because this is going to come up a lot right now. Darn skunks, says Carrie. Digging grubs on my lawn. Too soon for grub be gone? Any quick fix home remedies in the meantime? Thanks. Yeah, that's what skunks are doing. I saw some cruising around my development as well. I had so many. I'm going to tell you about bunnies in a second too. I had so many bunnies in my backyard. So the only thing that you can do to prevent those skunks from digging right now is put something like a blood meal down over the lawn. The blood meal is actually a natural fertilizer, will fertilize the lawn. The blood meal itself will create an odor that generally repels those skunks away from that area and will reduce the amount of digging that happens. And you may need to reapply after the occasional rain. And then as soon as soil temperature is warm, then what we'll do is we'll start to put that grub begone down. Grub begone is Bacillus thuringiensis, so it's a bacteria that will need to be watered in. So we need the grubs a little bit higher up to the surface. So that way, when the grub begone is put down, it will infect the grubs and take care of the grubs overall. Darn things. Okay, another thing that I wanted to share with you guys too is because, hey, live events are happening. Speaking of which, a couple things I want to give a shout out to. One live event that's happening next weekend is the Cottage Life Show. There you go. The Cottage Life Spring Show is happening April 7th to 10th. The reason why I bring these up to you guys is on the main stage, which you will see next Saturday. You'll see that, boom, we go to the main stage and there's lots of great little presentations that are happening. But Saturday at 11 a.m., Easy Care Plants with this guy named Frankie Flowers. It's Saturday, April the 9th, 11 a.m. at the Cottage Life Show. In celebration of live events coming back, what I'm going to do is, if you type in the word cottage, and it'll be to the first 4 people that type in the word cottage into the comments, I will, after this kind of broadcast, I will shortly send you an email, and I'll send you a pair of tickets to the Cottage Life Show. Boom. Another thing that I wanted to share with you guys as well is some of the other great garden shows that are happening out there. And one of those garden shows that's happening out there, and I received an email, is from the good people at the Wasaga Beach Lions Club. The Wasaga Beach Lions Club is hosting a home and garden show Saturday, April 9th and Sunday, April the 10th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Let me just kind of zoom that up. Oh, I guess I can. And it continues into Sunday. So if you're up in the Wasaga Beach, Collingwood area, and you want to take in some inspirations of spring, it's a nice live event. Also, I encourage people to continue to be safe, because we do know that numbers are increasing. So we want to be cautious, but at the same time, optimistic. So we want to have a good time that's out there. So I just want to check off some of the things that I've done here just to make sure that we have gotten the shout outs that I want to. Okay, now let's go to, this is maybe just a comment that we have here from Andrea. Sorry, I know you get a lot of hydrangea questions. No problem whatsoever. We got pink and white ones. Can we prune in spring? Great question, by the way. So it really depends on the hydrangea itself. And this is one of the most popular. I'm just right now revamping my website. That's taking a little bit longer than what I thought it would, which is life. And I was just saying, we really have to make sure that we do a really comprehensive blog on pruning hydrangeas. Hydrangeas that bloom on new wood, which are generally the whites, like the Incredible, Annabella, Limelights, Quickfire hydrangea, little lamb's ears, all those varieties bloom on new wood. So if you didn't prune them last fall, you can prune them this spring easily. You can prune them almost to the ground, or you can prune them by a third if you just want to be on the safe side. Macrophilia, which are the large leaf hostas, generally the ones that are endless summer, is a really popular variety. They're pink and or blue, and they have a larger leaf, a little shorter growing, and they have a more thick leaf. They bloom on old wood. So in the spring, what we want to do is just kind of leave them there then as soon as we start to see the buds appear and emerge, we just go in and remove any dead wood that's sitting there. Then we allow that plant just to fill in and to bloom, and you will have wonderful flowers. If we were to prune that macrophilia hydrangea that blooms on old wood now, we would remove some potential flowers and we just get foliage. So sometimes it's the reason why people are just getting foliage. I'm going to say a good shout out to Manitoulin Island this morning as well. Wiki Wee Ming Kong. Tried my best to say that. I'm sorry if I didn't do it well. Here we go for good morning from St. Catharines this morning as well. I wanted to prune a rather large hydrangea yesterday, but it's already budding. Should I prune it or leave it and prune in the fall? So it depends on the hydrangea. So even if it's already budding, and it is, those Annabellas, the PGs, the Limelights, if it's one of those white blooming that bloom on new wood, go and prune. There's no problem. You won't do any damage. If it's so big that you want to maintain it, bring it back a little bit smaller. I always encourage you to prune out some of those center branches so that we increase some airflow, make it a healthier one. But there's no harm in doing that. If, however, it is, like I just told you, a macrophilia, a large leaf, pink or blue, then just prune out any dead wood that you see that's there. Here we go. Another question though. Here we go. This is from Lois. Are there different Forsythia, and which are the most showy? How should one prune them? So yes, there are different varieties of Forsythia or Forsythia. Forsythia, the reason why it's probably one of the great additions when you have a landscape and or large landscape and you're looking for early spring color, the Forsythia is actually one of the first to flowering shrubs, beautiful yellow flowering shrub. And I encourage people this year, let's plant some yellow and blue in the garden, just in support of what's happening in Ukraine, which just breaks my heart. Just seriously breaks my heart that we're in the world at this time like that. The Forsythia, one of my favorite varieties of Forsythia is Northern Lights. It's Northern. Let me just do this really quickly here. I'm just going to type it out. Forsythia, not Northern Lights, Northern Gold. So it's Northern Gold Forsythia. It's my favorite variety. Northern Lights is azalea. So Northern Gold Forsythia, how do you prune? As soon as that thing blooms, as it's finished its bloom, give it a prune. Any plant, any flowering shrub that you have on your property, if you prune it after it blooms, you're never going to fail. You'll never fail. And you actually encourage stronger, nicer growth. And with some, you can even sneak an additional bloom out. You won't get that with Forsythia. But I know sometimes with purple sand cherry, after it blooms, you prune it and you can get a second bloom out of it as well. So good question, by the way. Here's another question that we have about an indoor plant. I have a lemon tree that's dropping all its leaves. How can I help it? So the reason why we have a leaf drop, so any plant that does a leaf drop, so whether it's outside or inside, a leaf drop is an indication of stress. So it's shedding its leaves because it just doesn't have enough energy to support those leaves. So we have to say, why is it dropping its leaves? 9 times out of 10, when it's an indoor plant like a lemon and it drops its leaves, it's probably sitting too wet. So it needs to dry out, and especially with those lemons, allowing them to dry out. So to go and test the soil. If you test the soil and it's moist and you don't have drainage in that pot, then we got to figure out how to get that thing dry as fast. Sometimes removing it, repotting it into a pot that has more soil, or if it's in a plastic pot and you can drill some holes just to get rid of some of the water. Depending upon the soil that you used as well, hopefully it was a potting soil or a mix of a potting soil with a little bit of some compost that's in there. The other reason for a leaf drop is that it could be in a location where it's getting a lot of drafts. So if it's near a heating vent, block that heating vent. That's the other. Sometimes insects will be an issue for a few leaves dropping, but not a complete leaf drop. A complete leaf drop is generally a sign of overwatering and or underwatering, or a change in temperature or a change in location. If you moved it from one spot to a new spot, it's dropping its leaves to adjust to some of those light levels. So I hope you helped out there with that. Hello. This is a question. Well, hello to you too, to Ali. From Syria. We live in campus on a Turkish border, and here the winter is cold and temperature drops significantly. We need help. We need heating materials, blankets, food items. We need clothes for our children in our situation. Ali, I appreciate you putting your message that's on here. And I think in the world today, we're all trying to help others. And I encourage people that are watching this today that if you have the ability to reach out and help something, there's no greater gift than helping another. And we all want everybody to live a wonderful life. And there is a lot of things happening in this world that we're not aware of, and we need to be more aware of. My platform that I'm doing here is for people to have some sort of a mental break from the world. So what I want people to come here to do is to share their gardens and to share their successes and some of their failures in their gardens, because I feel that plants are something that we can all relate to. Plants in spring give us hope, they give us excitement. Gardening itself is a physical leisure outdoor activity that can actually help your health and more so help your mental health. And so this here is an area where I just want to talk and share about things that we don't want to forget about the world, but we all need a break from the world. And all the people that, if they want to give to a plant, they want to give to another. And if we're benefiting the planet by growing and actually helping the environment, we are helping. But I really do encourage people to be educated. If you hop off this, take a half an hour to learn about other places in the world, it'll make you more grateful for home. And then if there's something you can do to reach out to help, indeed do that. I'm doing again this year, Elevated Eats. Elevated Eats at Yorkdale is my community garden that I'm building alongside of Oxford Properties, where Scott's Miracle Grow, the good people at Scott's Miracle Grow, are donating a whole whack of soil and some fertilizer. My family business, Bradford Greenhouse, is going to be donating some vegetable plants. We're going to be growing on a rooftop to elevate food choices in Toronto for people out there, even elevate some food education. And so there's always a way that you can do things that you can help people out there. Let's get back into it. Now, the slow lane, should we rake now? So on your lawn, if you go out there and not stretching, just thinking, before you rake, guys, the number one injuries that we have at this time of the year is always garden-related injuries, because people get off their couch and they've been sitting around for so long, and they go out there and they rake their entire lawn, and then they pull their back. So make sure you do a little bit of stretching. I wouldn't rake the lawn until it's firm underfoot. So if you go out there and it's squishy because it's still fairly wet, stay off it because you create compaction. The gardens, if you want to clean up the gardens, there's a lot of information out there right now that kind of says just leave them alone until we start to see things actively growing outdoors, because there are possibly some really beneficial insects that are sitting in some of that leaf debris that's out there that can benefit. But if you only have time now and you want to do some cleanup now, I encourage you to do so. You can go out there and prune off and cut off some of the older perennials. I'm looking in my backyard right now, and I see that there's a few flowering mums, the chrysanthemums, fall mums, that I left from last season. I'm going to cut them back, see if they resprout. They don't always come back, but we'll see. So don't rake your lawn until it's firm underfoot. Okay, that's kind of a little key. Here's another question that we have this morning from Copetown. The garlic is up about 2 inches and it's snowing this morning. Your garlic's going to be completely fine. Your garlic's going to be resilient, and some of the varieties of garlic that we have are more the northern, even some of the Russian varieties of garlic are really, really, really good. Here's the question here about a magnolia. When do you fertilize a magnolia tree? When it starts to actively grow. If things are in dormancy right now and you're seeing no leaves, no buds, no nothing, it doesn't need that extra energy. So as soon as that magnolia starts to put leaves on, that's a fantastic time to fertilize. There's fertilizer spikes, there's water soluble fertilizers. This is an example of a water soluble fertilizer that's there. There's slow release fertilizers that you can apply. You're looking for a tree and shrub food. That's what you're just looking on a magnolia overall. And generally for a magnolia, you want a fairly balanced fertilizer overall. Magnolias, if you're really promoting more bloom, you're looking for a higher middle number, but the magnolia itself, just an all-purpose fertilizer, will tremendously benefit that plant overall. We also like to know, this is for Lori Lovelace, we also like to know how to deter chipmunks from our garden. I have hundreds of them, and it seems as on the country. So chipmunks, what I've found is I've used a pelletized chicken manure. That pelletized chicken manure, hen manure, for some reason, the chipmunks, the squirrels just don't really like it. And I just do a light little top dressing over some of the gardens. And I've tested it a couple different times, and it's worked fantastic. So I would continue to think about using that. The chipmunks as well. You can trap them, remove them. Sometimes you can give them some food to the far end of the property so they stay away from your garden. Some people will even put dog hair in some of the areas, but chipmunks seem to be not adverse to that. They seem like they're okay with that. But check out a pelletized chicken manure, which is generally available at most garden centers as well. Here's another question that we have, a great question from Grace Price. I have 11-year-old cedar tree that are losing all the greens on the lower area, turning brown and dropping off, leaving bare spaces. So at the bottom, so as cedars get larger, the reason why we want a cedar to grow pyramidal is so that the bottom is fatter than the top. So that way the bottom can get light. If you had a cedar that's actually fatter at the top and skinnier at the bottom, it's not getting light. So a lot of the times those dead branches in the bottom are due just not to enough light that's happening. The key that you can do right now is to try to clean up those as much as possible. So take your hand, go in there and kind of clean up all that, just kind of shake the cedar out and just try to pull off as much brown as possible. Then what you'll do is an evergreen food, and hopefully that evergreen food, and then also take a look if there's other trees around that you can selectively prune so that we can open up more light to that. But a lot of the times it's because the bottom is dying, is that it's just not getting enough light. So what we need to do is clean it up and try to promote some additional growth. And then when we're pruning, always remember trying to always, even if you're having a hedge, even with a hedge, that bottom always needs to be wider than the top because it's always going to be struggling to get light. It doesn't seem like it's going to make that much of a difference, but it does make that much of a difference. Good morning from Marlene in Mississauga. I noticed that my cedars on the insides are brown and dry. They're dying, or is it natural during the winter season? That is natural. The same thing that I said to you, just go out there, you can shake them. You'll see a lot of those little brown kind of needles will fall down. Take your glove, clean it out. That'll put new air, new circulation that won't create any rot that's in there. And then an evergreen food. The evergreen food, once things start to get actively growing, so that could be at the end of this month, that you can start to apply that. So another great question. This is Sharon that says, see you there. I'll see you there, Sharon. I think she's talking about the Cottage Life Show, perhaps. Here's another one. And this is the great thing about this community, because this is truly a community. So if you're hopped on here, I want you to, some of the questions I don't get to ask or answer, forgive me, our community that's on here, I encourage you, if you know the answers, to get on there and to share information, because we're motivating people that are out there. This is a reply to Jerry Lynn from Maria. If you have the kind that grows on old wood, then wait until after the leaves grow and just cut off where it's clearly dead. If you have the type that grows on new wood, you can prune it before it starts to bud. Hydrangeas. I have some videos on hydrangeas too. So if you just type in Frankie Flowers hydrangeas, you'll actually see some videos that I've done on when to prune and how to prune and those types of things as well. Great article in the Newmarket paper. I haven't seen it yet. I hope it's, I don't know what you're, okay. And then we got all the cottage. Okay, good. We got people out there saying cottage. Wow, do we ever have a lot of people saying cottage? Hey, Tanya, so we're going to have Tanya come on. And I want to put her on. Tanya, I'm going to ask you what your availability is for next Sunday. So that's this next Sunday, because I would love to have Tanya on here to talk about the California plant spring trials. That is the California spring trials. What that is some of the varieties of plants. All the breeders come together. I mentioned it here last week. It's called CAST. Tanya was there, and we're going to get Tanya to give us a little bit of an update. So we're going to have her join us here. So Tanya, let's do it. Good morning, Frankie from Caledon. We got there. Here's another question that we have this morning as well. When should I start to fertilize my perennials and shrubs? And what fertilizer would you recommend? This is from Diana. So Diana, as I mentioned, it's always when things are starting to grow. One of the easiest fertilizers that you can use that's a good all-purpose that you can go and use it to your perennials and your shrubs is just a shake and feed. The all-purpose shake and feed is one that's a slow release that will actually release gradually over time, can release for up to 3 months. And it's just a great, easy thing that you can go through. And it's essentially that. You shake and you feed, but you're shaking it across the area on top of the soil. You can work it in the soil a little bit. That's the best. If you want to get specific, there are some different fertilizers that are slow release formulated for perennials. There's others that are formulated for tree and shrub. But I would just do an all-purpose, go through, put it into your gardens, and it'll just give your gardens a boost. You can also amend the soil by putting some manure down. That's something else that will help out and really apply. If you're looking for more organic, you can use a fish emulsion fertilizer. That would be a water soluble. Best time to apply a water soluble is after it's rained. Then you put that on your garden, but you're gonna have to apply that a few different times. That's why I like the shake and feed. You put it down once, And then you can actually, in the summer season, you can do some other water soluble fertilizing, really just to give it another bump. That's there too. Let's go. This is our last question of the day from Kaylee. I'm a new homeowner. Congratulations. And I have empty flower beds facing south and east in the front of my house. Where do I start when it comes to picking up perennials and annuals? I like colorful, wild, tidy look, but I have no gardening experience. So take some pictures of your property. You can actually send them to me, Frankie@frankieflowers.com. I can give you some suggestions. So if you're facing southeast, you're getting morning and a little bit of afternoon sun. So I would really try to pay attention to how much sun that you're getting. Where you start is you need to look at your soil quality, see if we want to do your soil quality. And then we want to get some easy care, low maintenance plants because this is your first time as a homeowner. So by sending me some pictures, we can figure out how we can soften the look of your home. We can figure out maybe there's some different things that we want to block out. Maybe there are some eyesores that you want to do. I like to incorporate a little bit of evergreens in a garden design as well, because in winter, then we have a little bit of green that's there because it is, we have 12 months of the year that we look at our house. So we want to make sure there is some interest there 12 months of the year. So Frankie@frankieflowers.com. That's where you send your pictures. I'm going to pick those that said cottage out there and send you guys a little bit of a note so that we can get those tickets over to you. For everybody that joined me this morning on this garden Q&A, I thank you. Next Saturday, Cottage Life Show. I will be there Saturday, April the 9th, 11 a.m., talking about easy plants. So join us. You will see me tomorrow morning, bright and early on breakfast television, forecasting the weather and telling you a little bit about the world of plants. And always a reminder, guys, gardening is way better than therapy. Why? Because at the end, you feel good and you get tomatoes.